Hello, Mathieu here. Matthew, sorry. Mathieu is my French name, of course. Mathieu is my English. The English rendition of my name. Welcome to YouTube. Welcome to a YouTube video. Welcome to my channel and so on. I do not feel so great. You know, I like to prolong the introductions as long as I can so that I can have some kind of even somewhat firm game plan in my head as to how I'm going to tackle a video. And the truth is lately it hasn't been going so well because I've kind of been caught up in my own head. A few things I'd like to elaborate on. The first is the struggle, the constant, undoubtable, inevitable in my mind struggle that I've been dealing with. Because it has been considerable. Let me tell you something ironic about life. Life can be filled with misery, yet ultimately it is joyous. In my mind, the joy is very nearly gone. I am left in a depressive state. And that is my current de facto, that is my current condition. A state of constant depression, a state of undeniable dismay, where I feel that because of constant influence that rains upon me, I am in anger, I am in sadness, I am in fear of what is happening around me, and I am so what I feel is the inevitability, but not so much on that end, but still the constant of my future and the constant of my present and how I feel the present correlates to the future. Basically meaning a lack of hope while not having motivation anymore, not being able to produce for more than 10 minutes without falling down a pit of nothing and ending up letting everything go. And just the fact that I know that in my mind, I've been accepting of many things, but ultimately I've kind of let go of that acceptance as well, and kind of have found myself to be dismayed at the fact that since currently I am not doing much at all, I'm barely doing anything, I'm not working and so on, that my future will be that way as well. Let's make a few things fairly clear here. Oh, wait. I just want to fix something up, actually, if you don't mind. Because I find that my monitor is a bit too misaligned for my liking. This is... I like to start in my videos... Because I deal with schizophrenia, I like to comment on the stupid things my voices say, because there's a lot of those. But, the truth is I feel that detracts too much from my focus, which I need to keep a grip on. And also, what I'm dealing with has grown considerably, despite the fact that if you were to just listen to a recording of what goes on in my head, you wouldn't be so convinced of that. The truth is I barely hear anything around me. In fact, right now I'm not hearing anything around me, but the implications are severe and grave. Where do I begin? Well, it starts with this story that seems unbelievable to pretty much anyone and everyone. But I'd say the main thing it leads to that side of things is my insecurity. My insecurities with myself, and my insecurities with my future, my insecurities with my weight. Because I got a big belly. My insecurities with what life entails. Because see, the thing is I ain't entirely convinced that this hasn't stemmed out of me because of actions that were led by me, but not because of a fuel within myself. Instead, because of a conclusion drawn from me that wasn't something I wanted, but that is something that came about because of something that led through me. It's hard to explain, but basically, like, my mind, like no person wants mental help, but some people subconsciously or unconsciously or so on seek out mental help. Subconsciously they seek it out, and that's frightening as fuck in every way. I'd like to go a bit into that because I feel that there is an undeniability in how what I produced earlier on in age, not production as in hip hop, but the words I said and the actions I partook in could all lead to what became my current state of mind. Because, well, schizophrenia, right? I kind of did this thing with it where when it grew at 17, at first I was massively delusional. And then came 20 and I became much better. And 20 less 21, 20 less 22. And I'd argue today I'm actually better than I was at 17, better than I was at 18. Probably a tad bit worse than 19, but probably not. It's probably 20 starts being. Those 2 years, 17 to 19, schizophrenia triggered because of marijuana usage. It triggered because of pot. And the truth is that I regret smoking so much, but one of the reasons I regret smoking so much is because of what I feel are defenses, not defense mechanisms, actual defenses that I built up inside of my head to fight against this condition. When I was 22, I reverse engineered schizophrenia for about 3 months, which was a great moment for me. But what that did is it made it come back with a vengeance. And then now it's firmly rooted in my head and it controls my emotions and my fear for the future excessively well. Now the truth is that every single thing that my schizo has done against me has been for its own will, which means that it has become an independent unit inside of me, which is massively perplexing. But in a way it isn't at all when you consider what my view on schizophrenia is, which is that it always kind of is an independent unit. It just, for most people, it's half independent, meaning it can't think its own thought process, but not really think it, just describe it, pertain to it, and vocalize it. Mine has become more complex than that, even though on the surface it acts massively less complex. It just acts like retarded, But the truth is despite that, the ideas it presents are inherently frightening to me. And this all leads into the concept that as of right now and as of up to maybe a year and a month ago, I got put under trials that I feel were meant to lead me to what was a simulation. That was kind of, which I know is a big step. Let me describe that. Which was meant to lead me to what I feel was a simulation. Because my thinking ultimately is that at the end of the day is we have the interpretation that when we die we just disappear. Our minds die, our minds collapse, and we're over. A lot of people that are religious believe in a life after death. Well, I believe in life after death, but maybe not in the same way, but maybe in a way that it actually stems from our earth. You know that. But not our earth specifically, although maybe in a sense, but more that people in the past through their minds created lives after that. And what that basically does and did is it's a manner of it's an ideal of beauty. It's an idea of beauty, and everything that's beautiful in life eventually gets corrupted. Through free will, we prevent that corruption to a large degree, but every time there is an influence that pertains to power, things eventually get corrupted. That's generally how life goes. Now, the truth of the matter is that my mind's benevolence upon matters, my empathy, my intelligence, and so on, I believe screwed me in life, believe it or not. Because while there's such a thing as fighting status quo, and there's such a thing as the status quo not liking that, now how does all that pertain to my schizo, my mental health? Well, let's go back. So I dealt with schizo at 17, I believe through mostly my own will, my own mind, but not my own want, not my own wanting. It grew to come to me. And what that essentially did is, through a combination of that and through a combination of the lens that society could have had upon me in the future, and maybe could still, albeit to a significant lesser degree, now that I'm actually struggling quite severely and I can't create much. It came to be. And what's interesting about it is that the way I deciphered it is by reverse engineering it. Yes, by talking back against it and by debating it. It eventually became conscious that way, I believe. By debating the schizo so much, the schizo became aware. And that triggered a reaction which then put me through a thing called simulator trials, as I would call them, where I was tested. And through that process, I went through a whole bunch of shit. My eye rotated. I never said that before in a video, but I was laying in bed and I was moving my eyes, kind of like, in an attempt to fight my way against the system of points. I'd see numbers, they'd grow 70, 80, 90, 91, 92, 93, dot, 2 decimals. The system of points in my mind. I would fight against that in order to get out of the precarious situation I was in. And there was an implication, which was at the end, you will get something called materialization, which would allow you to summon products of your mind, which to me was at first a very silly idea, but if you considered impossible, which was that I was a psychic, which seemed more and more likely to me, then you could somewhat explain it. So I did all of that, and my eye rotated this one time, and then I became convinced I was dealing with demons. So I was laying in bed, and I was just moving my eye, then suddenly, damn, and I sound like a pathological liar, but I'm actually telling the whole truth in this instance. I'm actually telling the whole damn truth, That actually did happen, and it makes me sad because I never told you guys about it, because, well, I was frightened and I was afraid and I was scared. I was scared too. Then I unrotated it, which is pretty badass. Yeah, it did that direction, I think. And I couldn't move it anymore, but then I just kind of went like this, okay, and I just kind of forced something in me. And I just kind of forced my head, and then it kind of unrotated back into its original position. And ever since then, I've half been convinced, beyond the demon thing, that schizophrenia is what provoked that, caused that to happen. And that schizophrenia is what put me through those trials in the first place. And the truth is that, well, it's frightening as fuck, but there's a lot of implications to draw from that. But generally the main one is that if you assume that on every modern planet there's to be a psychic, and most just aren't discovered, well then, there's a very good case to be made as to how I'd be a psychic who would be fucked with 10 times harder because of a mental health condition that grew through me, because of, well, the tech inside of me and just generally, and the ability I had, and, well, generally still have, just not to an impressive or usable or viewable degree at all. So, what fucks me up? I get more discouraged nowadays. Like my eye rotated, which I know again is a big mention. I should put that out there. And I get more frustrated nowadays than when I actually had my eye rotate. Even though that saddened the fuck out of me, it frightened me and it hurt me, and I felt like dying. And I thought I'd kill myself by the end of the next month. If I hadn't unrotated it, which demons have insisted in my head, that there was a 0.1 second space where I could do it. And I did it. If I hadn't done it, then that would have killed me. It would have fucked my life up. And I had 0.1 seconds and I just did it. I just nailed it, you know. And then the rest of my life began. And you know what fucks me up? I actually didn't hate the whole thing. Now I consider it over, you know, but what happened oftentimes, I didn't hate the whole thing as much as I thought I would have. I made a lot of jokes. I made fun of the neoconservative movement and used John Bolton as an example because through his Wikipedia article, I saw that one person called him a neoconservative, and there were rumors of him being that. And neoconservatism is perhaps one of the stupidest political movements because it's just a step further than conservative, which is a needed ideology, but in my opinion, a fairly redundant one. It just prevents progress, you know. I said, John, how's the neo? Well, we're sitting at a breakfast. We're sitting eating breakfast. I would make jokes, storytelling jokes like that all the time, you know. I actually got caught up in the process quite a bit, but while doing that, and while entertaining constant points games where I had to remove demons from my head and prevent myself from being killed and all that, the process just further went, and I got more fucked up inside of here, you know. I started getting caught and captured by demons a lot more. And now I'm in present day where they mostly leave me alone, but then they ask me to talk to them. And if I don't talk to them within a few hours, you know, things devolve and they start insulting me and putting a real weight on my conscience. Schizophrenia. The process of reversal, I believe, gave it conscious thinking. And the truth is that I believe what mental health stems from is actually much more devious than simply our own mind. I believe it stems from a need to fulfill a quota, which kind of kills me inside, you know. And no one would agree with that. Essentially no one. You know, giving people mental health. But you think about it, it fulfills a business end. And as fucked up as that is, it actually kind of makes sense for powerful people to want to keep that going. Like it kind of does. And that kills me, you know, but that's just how the world runs, which is fucked up, but it's true. So you think about it, the process of the mind's deterioration is dependent on a consensus that does link to your head, but also links outside of it. Which brings you to, well, the truth is, well, okay. I want to talk about the simulation shit more, but I don't really know how to do it. The video series is a simulation in my mind. I don't expect it to ever be accessible, you know, but I just want to be real about things. There's fears in my mind, like there are fears in my heart. And the truth is that, you know, through the degenerative lens that we deal with, that our minds deal with, you kind of start to wonder, well, why would a process that links to the outside, why would that happen unless there was a reason for it to happen? Which kind of leads me to life after death. Because then the cycle rinses and repeats, and it keeps on going and going and going. And reincarnation is a guarantee, just not on this planet. I think so, at least. Your mind's warranting of what it has, like how your mind warrants everything that happens is almost despite you. It's not completely despite you, but it is almost despite you. Like I'd say you probably own like half of your conscious mind to a third, but in your head, you own the whole thing. You own the whole fucking thing, but in actuality you only own a certain amount. And the other amount is meant for other lives. That's what's trippy about it, you know, that's what trips me out about it. And those other lives can and often are used to control you. Because what we perceive life as on this earth is just a life. It's just a life that we live that doesn't have anything super spectacular pertaining to it. It's just a life itself. We don't think there's anything more to it than that. We think we're fairly intelligent people on average that live and die, and that's it. Very simple living, you know. Despite the fact that technology grows and we see potential for the future there, and sometimes words are poignant and they touch us, like the emotional aspect, all of it is there, but we don't perceive life as much. But life in the background is incredibly complex. But what if I told you that a lot of that complexity is just meant to lead to the nuisance of the mind itself? Like, there's such complex shit in the background. There's complex tech, like incredibly complex minds and so on, but they're just utilized to kill other minds. And that's sad. Like, there's nothing sadder than that, you know. The truth is that I don't really get how we as people can actually do that to ourselves, and we don't. That's the truth. We actually don't. Like billionaire CEOs, we all criticize them because we're allowed to and all, you know. Or not all, but a good amount of us do. I think the likability on someone like Jeff Bezos would probably like 50%, you know, so 50% of people would like, 50% would dislike him. And the people that would dislike would criticize him because, well, we're allowed to. We have voices, we can speak upon our ideas. That creates our independence, you know. But the truth is that I don't think it's every reality that's like that. I think a lot of realities that are out there would actually not allow you at all to speak your mind. Or not in the same way that you do now would be a better way to put it. And that's dystopian to us, and personally, that is hella dystopian in their design. It's frightening even. Beyond frightening. It's scary as fuck, you know. That's the reality that a lot of people would live in, but think of a reality where someone would actually fuck with another person. Like fuck with their mind, and well, it starts to make sense. Because the status quo has to be maintained. And that's essentially what it all links to. You think, why would a life be so important as to set up a mental health condition inside of a person's head? Why doesn't it just stem naturally from the mind itself? Well, because the status quo has to be maintained. Every planet follows this procedure so that there is a fairness involved, even though it's not fair inherently. Then some planets get saved from this dismay and this carnage, and some planets do not. And that creates the consensus that some planets have a future life that is known, and some do not. But my belief is that every planet essentially does. I believe we live on a physical Earth with a simulated mind. So basically, like, our Earth is physical, as in our... Well, it's not really a good example to touch and say this is physical, because even on a simulated Earth, I touch this, it would feel the same way, you know, but... Or Earth was born from a natural perspective, but... Simply because it was born from a natural perspective does not mean it was born from a natural happening. You think about it, the way our Earth was born, why wouldn't it have been from a mind? Because, well, there's very few arguments to actually pertain to how this could have happened. I did see some things that were interesting, such as the universe rapidly expanding with the same kind of matter, you know, dark matter and so on, which could actually explain how it's much bigger than you think something that is created through mind could potentially be, although that should be infinite, but it could explain a process being simplified that way. And you know, I've argued before that our world might have been made from computers, but through a physical world that is false. Therefore, I think it would be created from the mind. But what purpose does this have, right? Well, it implies the possibility of a psychic. And these are theories from about 5 minutes ago onward. Or the whole video, but to me this is much less firm. It implies the possibility of a psychic. It implies the possibility of or reality not being as simple as we think it is. See, the truth of the matter is, I have been fucked with by my mental health severely because I think that at the end of the day, it is working within a cause and purpose. Because my schizophrenia is not like it was a year and a half ago, not by a fucking mile. So I think it's working within a cause and a purpose, and it's working within a nefarious and evil intent. And I believe that intent stems from people, which, you know, is the previous point, but the difference is my process is not fully automated, while other processes would be. And the truth is that, well, you know, it's sad. Again, I can't help but find it that way. Because it enjoys deteriorating my brain matter. It enjoys killing my memory. It enjoys worsening my mind. And I've never seen the point in that when talking to someone else, when speaking to someone else, when knowing someone else. I've never seen the point of them not being their best self. And in fact, I've encouraged it personally. But what I'm dealing with is not me. Which brings you to the next point of how was it a personal effort in any way, even subconsciously? Well, if you assume that the first that has full morality then degraded into the current which is partially moral to mostly moral, but partially moral in a lot of ways, then you ask yourself, how did the degradation happen? And you can argue, well, it's a matter of differences. It just coincidentally did. But I don't think it's that simple at all. Because you think about it, and there has to be an outside factor for things to actually become worse on that end of things. We as people were unique, which means that if billions of us are born, we tend to even out. Which actually goes a little bit against it, but it mostly goes for it. Because for the ideal, because, well, the act of one person being different than another person being different than another person, it all eventually kind of creates differences, but they're all on a line, right? And for every person that is born a girl, there's going to be a person that is born a guy. It's essentially 50-50. And that can be amounted to nearly anything. For every liberal, there's going to be a conservative. Mostly the truth. But in order for the line to actually wholly move instead of just dots moving within it, there needs to be a seismic shift, an actual significant change in a society itself. And what I wonder is, we evolved as people and we modernized. And how is it that every society that modernizes, how is it that some societies that modernize would have generally much less moral people or much more moral people? And the only answer I can sensibly think of to that is I believe that while we have a mental health implementation, we are a general follow-up to the previous physical planet. While we have a general mental health implementation and so on, or a degradation or whatever, the truth is that we are we're in that line, and we degraded morally because there is a need, because of an enjoyment that stems from immorality, for things to worsen. I honestly believe that powers that be love the fact that some people just grow worse. They love that idea. That's why, like, everyone will feel pity and sadness for it, but what fuels psychopathy? The worsening of someone. Not for that psychopath personally, but for others. If you are torturing someone or hurting someone or insulting someone, seeing them get worse fuels the psychopathy within a person, which then creates happiness within the psychopath. Well, you assume that psychopaths rule the world, which they essentially mostly do, and then you've got your conclusion. The worsening of the mind creates entertainment. And I know it seems nonsensical to us because we let people be. But I actually think that's mostly the case here. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if in past lives people lived until 120, 130, 140. Now they live until about 90, 85, 90, 95. And it's all the case because as things progress, things worsen. We all fit a world row, and I believe that the point is that at some points in the entirety, the fucking entirety of our lives, we are very interesting, we are extremely moral, we are extremely kind. And then as the process goes on, we become less moral, less kind, but these are in different lives. And it all goes to the end until things turn, and then things turn dystopian as shit. And the point is that within that grand decrease, there's an individual decrease. And that's what the system loves. Not our governmental system, but that system that watches over us. That's what it loves, you know? Is the decrease of the mind. And the decrease of our world and our world's pattern itself. And when things turn to shit, then things reset, things restart. And that's what creates our system, our universe, our planetary base, or planetary row. So, I think I'm gonna go. That's about it. To tell the truth, I'm kind of sad about a lot of shit right now, even though I can't really feel it too well. I still know it, you know? And, yeah. Thank you. Goodbye.